Okay, so let's start, please, by just sitting up comfortably, right? Very simple. Sit up comfortably. And at any time during the meditation, if you become uncomfortable, if you need to shift your position or scratch your ear or whatever, go ahead and do that. Okay, no suffering is allowed. Let's take a nice, full, slow, deep breath. And open your mouth and just let it out with a deep sigh. And another. And one more. And as a little kind of on-ramp into today's meditation, I want to invite you to think of someone who, for you, kind of embodies the spirit of wisdom and kindness. Might be someone in your actual life, might be a parent or your grandparent or child or a teacher. It might be some more archetypal figure like the Buddha or Jesus, the Dalai Lama, Mr. Rogers, someone who just, when you think of their eyes, you know, some people, you just feel kindness and wisdom coming through and a kind of silence, a quietness, a settledness behind the eyes. Okay? So whoever comes to mind is fine. And what I'd like to invite you to do is close your eyes and just imagine you're looking into the kind, wise, quiet eyes of whoever that person is. You don't have to try to visualize them clearly. That's not important. Just as soon as you think of them, there's that, you know, as soon as you think of the idea of looking into their eyes, there's the sense of it. There's the feeling, the presence. And that's more important than any clear visualizing. And just allow yourself to feel the silent, kind, compassionate wisdom that pours out through those eyes. And just allow yourself to sort of bathe in that presence, that kind, silent presence. Just bathe in it. Kind of melt into it. And allow the person with the kind eyes to melt as well. So that there's just nothing but this presence that is just pure kindness, pure wisdom, pure silence. There's no trying involved in this. There's no getting it wrong or getting it right. You just have the idea of it, and whatever happens is fine. Just sort of soak in that. And now let go of even the idea of soaking in this or that. Just remain as you are, however you are. Leaving everything as it is, however it is. Just resting in whatever awareness naturally presents itself. Regular, ordinary, everyday awareness. Naturally, we're aware of sounds coming and going. You hear this voice coming and going. You might hear traffic from the street coming and going. Perfect. It comes, it goes. It stays for a while, it goes away for a while, then the voice comes again, or another car comes. It's all perfect. Whatever sensations, physical sensations might show up within your awareness. Perfect. Feeling of being warm or cool, tense or relaxed, hungry or full, doesn't matter. Whatever shows up in the awareness is perfect as far as we're concerned. It all comes and goes. And notice that it all comes and goes on its own. We don't make a feeling of being hungry or full show up. We can't make the sounds of the passing traffic show up or go away. We're completely unemployed with respect to the things that show up in our awareness. We're just resting in the middle of the whole thing, however it is, completely on vacation. And of course, thoughts come and go. Also perfect. The coming and going of thoughts is exactly like the coming and going of sounds. If they're there, fine. If they're not there, fine. Doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what the thoughts are about. We don't pay any more attention to them than we do to the traffic sounds. It's just something there in the background. Just something coming and going within this awareness. We're not monitoring it. We're not trying to be mindful of it. We're just resting in natural awareness. And we may notice that all the things that come and go within our awareness have qualities, different sounds or different colors, different topics of thought. Also, feelings may come and go. So, a feeling of happiness has a very different quality than a feeling of depression or loneliness. And even that, for right now, doesn't matter, whether it's happiness or loneliness. Just one more thing passing through the awareness, one more quality, one more texture or color, we could say. And we can notice that while everything that comes and goes within the awareness has qualities, the awareness itself has no qualities. The awareness itself is empty, open, free. It's like aware, open space. It's just the space within which everything else comes and goes. So this awareness is the only thing with no qualities. And it's the only thing that doesn't come and go. Anytime we look, there it is. Anytime we look, there's nothing to look at because there's no qualities. It's where we're looking from, where we're thinking from, hearing from. So notice we have not had anything to do here. We're just pointing out, we're just noticing the way things always are. We're always aware. Different experiences with different qualities are always coming and going within the awareness on their own, without any doing from us. Awareness is always devoid of qualities. We're just for once noticing how it works. And for once, we're just resting in it. We're not trying to do anything about any of it. Just completely resting in this natural open space of awareness. Just relaxing our grip on anything we've been grasping. Relaxing into this space-like, open, empty, free awareness. That's all. Just rest as awareness. That's simple. Not trying to concentrate, not trying to meditate, nothing to hold on to, nothing to get rid of. just resting as awareness. And where is this awareness? Right here. Wherever we are, it's always right here. We're never out of awareness. Otherwise, if we're flying around looking for awareness, it's like a bird flying around looking for the sky. Always right here. Anytime you find yourself grappling with some question or problem, or hanging on to something, resisting something, struggling in any way, yeah, that happens to everyone. Just relax your grip on it, whatever it is. Don't try to resolve it or get rid of it. Don't even try to let go of it. Just relax your grip on it. And then it doesn't matter if it's there or not. Relax back into this open, empty, space-like awareness, which you've never left. You never can leave. It's always right here. Never anything to remember, never anything to evaluate or keep score of. Nowhere to get to, no way to get there, because you're already here. You're already here in this open space-like awareness. It's just a matter of completely allowing yourself to rest in it, to relax your grip and relax into it, and not bothering about whatever's coming and going within it. Okay. Now, please keep your eyes closed and take a few minutes to gently bring the body back to a more active state. Wiggle the fingers or the toes, and really take your time. Just start as you feel to do it. Just start shifting around in your seat, maybe rolling your neck, stretching your limbs, just easing out of meditation. And when your body feels ready to be back in the room again, you slowly open the eyes, always taking your time. Okay, how's everyone doing? Everyone good? Good, good, good. Um, any questions or observations about the meditation? In particular, the people who are joining us for the first time, if there's anything you feel unsure about, yeah, I want to make sure we get that cleared up. Okay. So, yes, this is Jonathan.
Yeah, I had a question. I'm Rick.
Rick.
And it was a bit premeditated because earlier in the day, I was thinking about how I needed meditation. And I thought then to ask you about intentionality. And so often when we're in yoga or a mindfulness setting, we talk about intention or setting an intention. And with the practice that we're using here in the group, right, we're talking specifically often about not trying. Mm-hmm. And so I was wondering if you could speak to about how we try to use meditation for something, mm-hmm. And whether or not setting an intention or trying to get something specific out of it works against us, or me specifically. Mm-hmm. Does the process of the group just have to be what it is, and sometimes it's tumultuous and sometimes it's peaceful? Or,
well,
just a little bit on that idea.
Yeah, well, the process within the individual is going to be different. The experience, the process is essentially the same. I mean, even to use the word process is almost going too far because it's not really a matter of doing. It's really more like being. Now, certainly when we start with some kind of on-ramp activity, as we did this time with this, thinking of the eyes of this kind, wise, quiet person, and then just kind of melting into those eyes. And first of all, let me ask just for the people in general, because I know many of you have done different kinds of on-ramp activities with me. We do, something with breathing or something. How did you like that one? How did you like? Did people like that? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Yeah. Okay. Good. So just as a general principle, what on-ramp is the best to use? It's the one that appeals to you. And what's the point of the on-ramp? The point of the on-ramp is get to the express lane as quickly as possible. Okay. The express lane is, there's no intentionality, there's no purpose, we're just hanging out and being. We're resting as awareness. If you remember 3 words, especially folks who are new to this, because I have a tendency to say a lot of words. The 3 most important words, if you're going to walk away from here remembering 3 words, the 3 words to remember are rest as awareness. Right? You could say rest in awareness. So we notice, and Rick, I'll get back to more specifically to your question in a moment. I just want to make sure everyone's clear on this. The essence of this approach to meditation, this natural approach, is that we're not trying to accomplish anything. We're not trying to get this or that out of it. We get a lot of things out of it. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. There's a lot of great benefits. Otherwise, why are we sitting around wasting our time? But during the meditation itself, the essence of the meditation, when we're in the express lane, my left hand here, in the left lane, we notice that we're aware, that awareness is wide open. It's like space, that stuff comes and goes within it, that we're not controlling the stuff that comes and goes. We're not responsible for it. We can't control it. It comes and goes without us. And we rest in the awareness, not minding what comes and goes. And then whatever settling down takes place, happens by itself because of the mind's natural gravitation toward our own essential nature, which is this wide open, this peacefulness, this bliss, this silence, which is at our core. We don't create silence, we sink into the silence that was there, perhaps overlooked. And as we're in the process of sinking into it, that's the subjective experience is going to tend to be different from session to session, and even from this moment in a given session to 5 minutes later. Sometimes it can feel tumultuous. Sometimes it can feel very serene. And it's important to know that that's not because when it felt serene, we were doing it right, and when it feels tumultuous, we're doing it wrong. Because there's nothing to do, we're just resting. The reason that the subjective experience varies is that as we're settling down, the nervous system's getting purified. All the old crap, all the old neurological imprints of all the old stresses and traumas is getting flushed out, as it were. And as the stuff's coming out, sometimes that's going to feel tumultuous. So just know that the process itself is simple. What happens during the process can be all kinds of stuff. Now, because just resting in awareness, or more and more as we continue to practice, we realize it makes more sense to say rest as awareness. We realize that the awareness is not one other object we're aware of. It's us. It's the one who's aware. Everything else is experiences. The awareness is what we call in day-to-day life, I, the experiencer, the one that is aware. And everything else is objects of experience that I'm aware of, including this body that I might have thought I was, including these thoughts, these attitudes, these emotions that I thought I was. But those are all things I'm aware of, right? A memory is not aware of anything. That can't be the I. A person, a body is not aware of anything. It can't be the I. It's a thing I'm aware of. So more and more, it becomes clear that we're resting as awareness. But if that doesn't quite compute for you yet, just think of it as resting in awareness. That's fine. Okay? So while we're doing that, there's no intentionality. There's nothing we're trying to accomplish. There's no goal because we're always already here. Now, thoughts may come up about, oh, I have this goal in my life. I have this intention, this thing I'd like to get out of meditation. That's fine. That happens to everyone. And that is what's called thoughts. Okay? And the thought about my goal of supreme enlightenment, or my thought about the compassion that I feel or would like to feel for all the beings in the world, those thoughts are, for the purposes of meditation, exactly equivalent to a thought like, oh, I forgot to put peanut butter on my shopping list. The content of the thoughts, we just treat it all like it's in some language that we don't speak. We just don't bother about it. Now, Rick, is this addressing what you're asking about?
Yeah, I think I'm asking whether or not meditation can be used the way that we sometimes want to use it, like as a fix or something to help us. Now, at the same time, I already had the question before we sat down, and then I received benefit from it just by being here, just by doing the sit. But like when we were talking about sleep as a group as well, like sometimes when we want to get something out of meditation, that's just maybe not quite what it's for. I guess that's my question I was getting after.
Okay, can you give me maybe one or two examples or additional examples of the kind of thing you're talking about getting from meditation?
Yeah, if you have a day where you feel particularly anxious or particularly depressed or something, you want to do the the things that you can to
Mhm.
fix them, and so one of them is exercise or sleep or eating well, and one of them could be meditation. But um, uh, it may not work the way that we expect it to if we want to fix an anxious feeling with meditation, because we could sit there in meditation and be anxious the whole time.
Yeah, it's all a little bit simpler than you're making it. Okay,
Okay.
um, it's certainly, as I know you've experienced, we can sit and meditate. Maybe we went in, there was some anxiety, and when we come out, we realize, hey, my anxiety dissolved. And sometimes we may come out and realize, nah, some of that anxiety, maybe a lot of that anxiety is still there. Okay, I'll go run around the block, or better luck tomorrow, or something. In general, we tend to notice that, yeah, meditation helps to dissolve anxiety. Great. So that happens. Now, maybe when we were going into meditation, we had a specific thought, gee, I'd love to get rid of this anxiety. And maybe we didn't. Maybe we were not particularly thinking about it and just came as a little pleasant surprise afterward. Hey, this anxiety is gone. It doesn't matter. Either way, if what's in the cards, that what's going to be sorted out by the nervous system in this particular session is some settling down that's going to melt the anxiety. That's going to happen whether we consciously had a desire or an intention for it or not. Okay, is that making sense to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see it's really much simpler than you're thinking about it. We sit, we rest as awareness, and what happens happens. And any intentions or desires that you have, they're fine. They're not going to hurt anything, and they're not going to help anything. There's just one more thought in the mix, one more thought to ignore. Okay?
Hmm.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. What else? I'm going to lower your hand for you, and I'm going to mute you. So who else has a hand up? Don't see any other hands up. Okay. You know what? Let me say something more about this, just to be really clear about this question of thoughts and meditation. We had a good conversation about this on our Tuesday night session. Okay, most of you have probably had the experience of sitting, let's say, at a sidewalk cafe. Maybe sitting by yourself, enjoying your drink, maybe sitting with a friend, having drinks, talking. Now, there's all these sounds going on. There's the sounds of the traffic going by. There's the sounds of the conversations at the other table there on the other tables there on the sidewalk. Are those sounds a problem? Do they interfere with your having your conversation with your friend? Or they interfere with you sitting by yourself and enjoying your drink? No, it's just there in the background somewhere. It might even happen if suddenly a car slams on their brakes. You hear the screeching of brakes, and then suddenly you realize, ooh, there's been traffic there all along. It just sort of faded into the background for me. Now, if you were to suddenly decide, hey, all these people here at the other tables, they are so rude having their conversations when I'm trying to have my conversation, or I'm trying to enjoy my drink. And you start going around trying to shush all the other people. Or if you decide, oh, all this traffic's a problem, I'm going to stand and go in the middle of the street, try to halt all the traffic. Right? Now you have a problem. You're not a policeman. The traffic's going to ignore you, right? You might get run over, right? Now, This is an analogy for thoughts and meditation. They are not a problem unless we decide that they're a problem and we try to do something about them. And this is what most people think meditation is. They think meditation is this task of shushing your thoughts till at last you silence your mind, and then there's the settling into presence, the settling into beingness that is somehow on the far side of all those thoughts. But we've got to get through them. We've got to tamp them all down. Now, as you've experienced this settling down into awe, into this nice quiet place that's the core of our own being, this silent awareness, it does not depend on getting rid of the thoughts. We can settle into it, and the thoughts are somewhere there in the background. We're just not much paying them any mind. We treat them like they're in a language we don't speak. We don't engage with them. And in fact, once in a while, I'm conducting one of these sessions, and someone will raise their hand and they'll say, geez, I went to a place where there was just no thoughts, just pure silence, no thoughts. It was so great. It was so blissful. And, I hear that and I think, uh-oh. Right. In fact, in the Dzogchen teachings, which are considered the pinnacle wisdom teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, they have a list of the pitfalls to meditation. And one of the pitfalls on the list is lack of thoughts. Because when you have that experience, it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, to have that experience, I have to get rid of thoughts. To get back to that blissful place again, I'll have to get rid of my thoughts again. And it's not true. And even if you could do that every time, which you can't, unless you're a very unusual person. Even if you could do that every time, it wouldn't be significant. All it means is you can sit with your eyes closed and not have thoughts and have, lovely inner blissful silence. But it means that the moment you open your eyes and you're back to having thoughts and engaging in activities, the contentedness, the infinite okayness of your inner being goes away. That's why actually you have to have thoughts in meditation. It's important, it's desirable to have thoughts in meditation so you can experience how the thoughts and the inner blissful silence coexist. And then more and more you start to experience that, oh, with my eyes open, thoughts and inner quietness coexist. And more, oh, I don't have to be sitting in a chair. I can get up, move around, engage in conversations, and more that silence as the background to all the activity, all the noise, doesn't go away. So for that integration to take place, there have to be thoughts in meditation. Okay, is this making sense to people? Yeah. Okay, and I know some of you have heard this before, but it's a thing we have to say over and over because often people, they have such an ingrained idea that thoughts in meditation are a problem, that we just want to make sure once and for all we've dealt with that. Okay, so we have Avinash. I'm going to unmute you. Okay, so.
Yeah, my question is probably not directly related to meditation, but can I still ask?
Sure, absolutely.
How do you stay in the present? I almost think to stay in the present, another parallel to me is how do you become a good listener?
Mm-hmm.
Because your mind is constantly trying to pull you in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a meditative state that you need to practice? Can you achieve an effective way of staying in the present?
Mm-hmm.
So is it similar to what you just described? Like I struggle with staying in the present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So do me a favor. This is an exercise we can all do. So Avinash and everyone else, please move your hand back and forth in front of your face. Okay? Okay, now stop. And now do it 3 seconds in the past. No? Okay, then in that case, do it 3 seconds in the future. Now, usually there's some wise guy who'll go, okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and say, look, I'm doing it in the future. And I'm going, no, that ain't the future. That's the present. That's now. That's now. Okay? So what's the moral of the story? Avinash? What's the moral of the story?
We're always in the present.
We're always in the present. I remember when I first, the classic book by Ram Dass, Be Here Now. I remember the first time I saw the title of that book, and my thought was, well, where the hell else can you be? But of course, there is a point, there's a very valid point that Ram Dass was making in that book, and there's a very valid point that you're making, which is that even though we're only ever in the present, we can get as if lost in thoughts about the past or lost in thoughts about the future. Really, we should say thoughts about the quote future, unquote, because it's our anticipation of the future, which you may have noticed, it never really turns out the way we anticipated. So it's just a thought about the future. And when are we having that thought about the future? We're having it now. We're having it in the present. Now, the past stuff, which also should be in quote marks, because you ever notice when you get together with your old friends or your brothers and sisters and talk about all the hilarious stories from the old days, and everyone's got a different version. Right? And in fact, we think, I'm becoming more and more aware of this as I get older, that we think that our memories are like a video library and they're just there. And every time we pull that memory out, it's the same. And in fact, it's not. We're reconstituting it. We're making it up in the present every time. And it's interesting sometimes I used to experience, I used to be an English teacher. I taught in the classroom for years and years. And a lot of books, I teach the same book every year. And I'd come back to it, and I tell the same stories. And after, double digits of years, sometimes I couldn't remember, where did I first hear this story about, Shakespeare and his lead actor, Richard Burbage, and blah, blah, blah. All I can remember is the sound of my own voice saying this. And in a couple of instances, I went back and checked, and I realized that over the years, I'd gotten the story completely wrong. Made me feel like I needed to call back my old students, like recalling a car with a faulty axle or something. So the point is, if we spend a little time really getting clear about this, that what we call being lost in the past or lost in the future is being deeply engaged in a thought which is happening in the present, which is the only place the things can happen. Okay? Being really, if you get just one time really, really clear about that, I think you'll see that it kind of cripples the ability for us to get completely lost in the illusion of past or future again. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing is, and I love your intention here, which is to be a good listener, which a lot of people are not. A lot of people, what they call having a conversation is waiting for impatiently for the other person to finish having their say while you're mentally rehearsing the thing you're going to say.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. And in fact, there's a teacher and a writer, Peter Fenner is his name. He had a book I read some years ago called something Radiance or Radiant something. And the one thing I got from this book that I really liked, he talks about something he calls I think he calls it negative listening. Not negative in the sense that there's something bad about it, but negative in the sense that you're just sitting there with no agenda. You're not sitting there with, oh, what's the clever thing I'm going to come back with? You're not, and particularly when someone comes to you who's troubled. Our tendency, when someone comes to us that's troubled, they're telling their story, and we tend to be sitting there thinking, oh, how can I help them? How can I fix this? How can I heal this? And it's a noble intention, but often the best thing, the most healing thing we can do is to just be an open space, the space of open awareness for them to pour their story into, for their story to just kind of dissolve into. We could say it's to be like the kind of person we were whose eyes we were visualizing at the beginning of the session tonight. You know, in a sense, that's what this is all about. It's lovely to have pictures of the Dalai Lama or Ramana Maharshi or Mr. Rogers or Santa Claus, whatever. And it's wonderful. It's great. You can see I got lots of pictures, up here on the altar behind me. But to me, what that's for is to inspire us to become that kind of person, to be that kind of person for others. Wouldn't it be nice if someday someone's doing a practice like that and they're told, think of someone that you think of as wise and kind, and the first person they think of is you? Wouldn't that be nice? Right? Well, I mean, what better aspiration? And so I love that this is your aspiration. And you're absolutely right that the number one thing we can do, the simplest thing that we can do to be that kind of person is just this meditation. Because what we're doing when we practice this resting in awareness or resting as awareness, we're getting acclimated to hanging out in that silence, right? To being in that place where Peter Fenner wants us to be when we're listening, to do what he calls negative listening. And more, as we're getting acclimated to it, more and more the awareness of that is enlivened as we come back into everyday life. So more and more we're bringing that presence to everything that we do. Listening to people, doing our work, whatever it is, for people who do creative work, whether it's, creative writing or creative painting or creative accounting, whatever it is, the more directly, the more consciously we're in touch with that silence, which is where everything bubbles up from, the more effective we're going to be at it. But we're going to be most effective if we approach it from silence. If we approach it coming from zero. Actually, I'll tell you a little story about this, a personal story. When I was in grade school, I was the class brainiac. I was straight A slider, the kids used to call me. That changed later on, once I got into quadratic, algebra and geometry and so forth, and physics, that all changed. But in grade school, I was the smart kid in class. And I can remember the teacher would be presenting some idea and the kids would be struggling with it. And I would respond, oh yeah, well, because blah, 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 blah. And I can remember very distinctly, this is like the first grade, the second grade, other kids turning around, looking at me in amazement, like, wow, how does he do that? Like, what's the superpower he's got inside his cranium that allows him to do that? What does he have in there that we don't have? But it was very, very clear to me. It was like I could see this, that it wasn't that I had something that they lacked. It was that they had something that I lacked. I could see that it was like their heads had a certain amount of like peanut butter and sawdust inside. Some obstruction, some stickiness that the teacher's concepts had to, filter through, and that my head was empty. Is that making sense to you? My head was just empty, so the stuff could come right in. And that's what they call being smart, as if that's a quality, but it's really just an aspect of hanging out in that qualitylessness. So more and more we bring that to everything that we do. And it's great. It's so much less work, you know, when you can just, and so much more fun when you can just hear things and not have to have it all filtered through all these thoughts that you're bringing to it. To just let your friend tell their story. And this is there's so many, there's so much particular kinds of problematic things happening in people's lives now because of the virus and the quarantine, many kinds of distress and suffering. To be able to really, so this is some very good opportunities for practice for us. To just be wide open, not trying to think of the clever thing or the healing thing to say when the person gets to the end of their paragraph. Just being open to it. And then what you'll find is that then whatever response comes will be much deeper, coming from a deeper place, more effective than anything we could have thought our way through to. And sometimes the most effective thing to say is nothing at all. You know, they talk for a while and then they say, gee, thank you, Avinash. I feel so much better. Gee, Avinash, you're good. You know, and you've just been sitting there being.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay. And Barb, did you have your hand up? Where are you? I'm going to unmute you. Okay. Everyone, by the way, don't try to unmute yourself because then we wind up toggling each other. There we go. Yeah.
No, I was just giving you a thumbs up before.
Oh, okay.
And, but, you know, like I'm listening to Avi and it's, you know, it's just so good. I like that you repeat things because, you know,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, I get it. And then I forget it. I get it. And then I forget it, you know, and just, I don't know. It's just good to hear it again.
Yeah.
To try to soak it into my brain.
Yeah.
I guess it comes in and it goes right out.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. There's something about this knowledge in particular, this knowledge of life, this Dharma teaching, if we want to use that word, that somehow we need to hear it over and over. Because why?
Old tapes, maybe?
Yeah, old tape. Yes, there you go. We've got all these other old tapes saying, oh, life is a certain way. Life is a certain way. Life is a certain way. And the real essence of Dharma, the way that life really is, completely subverts all of those old tapes, completely opposed to all of them. And so if we really got it once, then we don't have to show up for the teaching anymore. So anyone who's showing up needs to hear it again. Now, you know, the thing is, I've had the example of my own teachers, in particular, my first serious teacher, which you can see this picture here.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Okay, this picture here. There we go. That's Maharishi Mahesh Yogi sitting with a couple of his buddies. He was my first really serious long-time teacher, and he would say stuff over and over and over and over and over again. Over years, I heard him say this stuff. And sometimes, you know, we'd be sitting in the lecture hall, the rest of us looking at each other going, God, is he really saying this thing again? But guess what? 50 years later, I'm still hearing it.
Yes.
And a whole lot of what I'm saying to you all is what I learned from him, you know, often in his very words. So, and also I've experienced, for example, I remember this happening when I was teaching meditation in New Orleans back in early 70s. And people would come and they'd come for the sessions, and I'd say over and over, what you hear me say: no trying, no concentrating. You just let be, you let go, relax your grip, take it as it comes. And this one person was coming for like 6 months or something. They kept loyally coming to the sessions. And then one day they said to me, we came out of the meditation, and they said, boy, you know what I realized in the meditation? You know what I discovered? I said, what? They said, you just let it go. Just take it as it comes. And I said, yeah. And they said, well, why didn't you tell me before? And in different forms, I've heard that over and over again. It's as if, as you say, the old tapes, the tapes of non-awakening are so insistent that it's hard to, it's as if it's hard for us to hear the thing. It's like a blind spot or something, like a deaf spot, something like that. So thank you for thanking me for that. I hope you'll like hearing stuff over and over, because with me you're gonna get that. And then part of the fun for me is, okay, what are the different ways that I can say this? Do it a little bit from this way, come up with a new story, a new metaphor, a new analogy, some fresh way. If people hear it a fresh way, they maybe that'll help.
Mm-hmm.
For example, here's a fresh one. I came, so many of the analogies that we use, the metaphors of the wave and the ocean are centuries old. Teachers have been using this stuff for millennia, and there's a reason, because they're great. They work. Here's a new one I came up with. I'm still working out the details. We'll see if this works. Think of life as this road, this highway. We've been going along this road all our life, maybe sometimes walking, sometimes driving. All these activities happen on it. We see all these various things. And there's some sense we're trying to get to, there's going to be some ultimate goal, some ultimate destination at the end of the road, some pot of gold, let's say. We want to get to the pot of gold at the end of the road. Okay, that's life. We're going through life. Engage, sometimes we crash into other cars on the road of life, and sometimes our car breaks down, with bad things happen, good thing, we see beautiful scenery, all that. But there's a sense, I got to get to the end of the road, to the pot of gold. While we're busy paying attention to all these things we experience, all the views and all the interactions, one thing we don't think much about is that there's asphalt underneath us. The road is made out of something. The road is made out of asphalt. And if there were not that asphalt, that paving beneath us, we couldn't drive. We'd just be bogged down in the mud. The whole basis for what we're doing, for all this stuff, is the road. So we have a tendency to not appreciate it, to take it for granted. So maybe we start to think about that, and maybe, we go to a lecture one night, or read a book, or encounter some guide or teacher or something, says, hey, let's just slow down our car. Let's pull over here and stop, and let's sit and contemplate the asphalt for a while. Just look at it. And gee, we get quieter. We get some increased appreciation. We get more kind of in touch with this thing, which is the basis of all our driving. We might get more familiar with what the asphalt is like, which might somehow allow us to drive more efficiently when we start up again, something like that. And if we keep looking, and we do this from time to time on some kind of regular basis, maybe we start to realize, gee, the asphalt has this kind of shiny quality to it that I didn't notice before. It's kind of shiny. It's prettier than I realized. It's not just utilitarian. It's not just a place to drive. It's really contemplating the asphalt. There's something lovely about it. And the closer, the more we look at it, the shinier it looks. And eventually realize, wait a minute, this asphalt isn't asphalt. It's gold. I've been driving all this time, all these years, looking for the pot of gold, and I've been driving on the gold. Okay?
Okay.
Through I gotta get the gallery view to see if this story's going over with the crowd. Is this one working for you, folks? I'm suddenly thinking of the days of the Roman Colosseum where they, telling the gladiators to spare the guy or kill the guy. But you see the point of the story here, I hope, which is that if we take some time to slow down, what we call meditation, for lack of a better word, to slow down and get back in touch with this thing that we've been navigating on, driving on, living on all this time, trying to get to some ultimate goal, some ultimate contentment, ultimate happiness, ultimate okayness. Now I can rest. Now I can rest and feel everything's okay. We realize it was right there beneath our wheels all along. We don't have to get to some ultimate destination to do it. It's always right here. Okay, so I see Jose has his hand up. I'm going to unmute you.
Yes. Hi, could you hear me?
Yes.
Well, so I guess I'm going to ask the question again. Like I'm in a meeting, and after the meeting, the person comes over and says, "Can I talk to you?" And right away, my antenna goes up, my anxiety goes up, because I know that once he starts to talk, I don't know how to hold the space, because I know that from the past experiences, my mind will grab me and I don't know where I went. And then all of a sudden he'll ask me, "Did you hear me?" And I'm embarrassed by what happened.
Okay, first of all, let me quote one of those things that I heard Maharishi say dozens of times, if not hundreds of times, which is the past is always a lesser state of evolution.
Okay.
So this is for starters. It's never been right now before. Right now, so what you just described, and notice what happened. When you started describing it, you put it in the present tense. So what happens is, and then he says, and then I do this. You were putting it in the present tense. But really what you were describing is stuff that's happened in the past.
Okay.
But notice how this is, what Barb was talking about these tapes. One of our tapes is that the present and the future must be like the past. Okay? Not so. It's not so. So that's for starters. Second thing, on a more practical level, actually in the newsletter that I sent out with the Zoom links this week on Tuesday morning, I mentioned a new video I recently made, a little short 15-minute video called "Cutting Through Anxiety: 5 Simple Methods." So I don't know if some of you went to view that, but that's really good for, Jose, the kind of situation you're talking about, where it's right in the moment, what we call the moment of contact, when the thing happens. And at the moment of contact, our tendency is to touch up, right? Now, actually, one of the things, so if instead, go to that, when we're done here, go to that, if you actually have got it now, a link to it right on the homepage of my website, deanslider.com. If you have trouble spelling Slider, just deanwords.com will get you there, deanwords.com. And right there on the homepage, one of the little tiles there is a link to that, new video, Cutting Through Anxiety. Okay? And I give you 5 things that you can do right there in the moment. Okay, some of them are not going to be cool to do while someone's talking to you. Some of them are. Okay, one of them is this relax at the moment of contact. Now I've got, okay, I have time. Okay, I've got a story about this one, and I tell the story in one of my books. And it happened in New Jersey. When I used to study the martial art of Aikido, with my dear friend Rick Stickles was my instructor. And I was practicing for something called my third Q test. It was like the next, rank promotion. And I'm there on the mat in the dojo, and I'm practicing something, I forget the name for it, but it's a thing where the multiple attackers come in. Now, the way Aikido works is there's no fighting, there's no conflict, but when people come in and they try to punch you or slice you or grab you, the idea is that you essentially join with the direction, join with the energy with which they're coming with you, and help them along. Oh, you want to rush in this way? Let me just help you keep going. It's very beautiful. It's got these big, beautiful circular motions, and it's really lovely when it's done well. I was never very good at it, but so I'm practicing for this thing with multiple attackers, where it's 3 guys coming in at me, right, one after the other, trying to grab me. And the idea is that as each one comes in, what I'm supposed to be doing, whatever he throws at me, this punch, this slice, this grab, I join with the direction and help him keep going. Put him into a toss or a throw, or put him into a roll or something. But instead what's happening is the first guy comes and grabs me, and I freeze up. And then I'm trapped. And then the second guy grabs me, the third guy, and they all pull me over. We're in a big dog pile with me at the bottom. It's a total mess. Okay. And this keeps happening over and over. I'm getting more and more frustrated until, okay, I get up, dust myself off. Once again, the first guy's about to rush me, and suddenly I hear a voice. And Philip, I know you're here. Philip actually still practices, I believe, in that same dojo. I hear a voice, and it's Rick's voice, my instructor, Rick. He's halfway up the wooden stairs up to the men's dressing room, and he calls out to me, "Dean, relax at the moment of contact." I think, what? First of all, I think, I'm not, what's he talking about? And of course, I was doing this. And so the first thing is to recognize that you're tightening up at the moment of contact. Second thing is to recognize that you really can do that. You really can very deliberately do the opposite. The exact moment where our tendency is to tighten up, that's when to relax. And then the guy came in at me, same way, through the same slice or punch or whatever it was. I did technically the same thing, the same footwork, the same swiveling the hips, only this time it worked. And the guy goes flying across the room like magic. And then the second guy comes, and he starts to grab me. I start to tighten up again. Rick says, "Dean, relax at the moment of contact." Oh yeah. And it works. I put him into a roll. Third guy. And it was hilarious, because then I'd remember for a little while, like as Barb was saying before, working is working. Then I'd forget, I'd tighten up, and it's not working. And it was like flipping a switch on and off. It was so great. So what's the moment of contact here? In Jose, in your story, it's very clear. It's when the guy's coming and saying, "Hey, Jose, can I talk to you about this thing?" And you're going, So very simply, just recognizing that when you're going, instead go,
Relax.
Right? Relax. Just relax. Recognize the moment of contact. Relax then. Right? And then all these, we get to, Yath and I, just before this session, we were out for a walk. And these days, you got your mask on, and you're, okay, here comes this other person coming the other way on the sidewalk. Why are they not wearing a mask? Are they going to observe social distancing? doesn't keep you safer. Doesn't repel virus.
Mm.
And in fact, when you tighten up, then your perspective, your ability to, when you relax, then you see, oh, I can walk around them this way. Because when you constrict, your vision gets narrower. Your perception of the situation becomes narrower. Oh, just go here. It's not another thing. This thing actually Maharishi only said once. He wrote it. It's in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And this thing, I didn't understand it the first time, but I knew it was like the truest thing I'd ever heard. And he said, the solution to every problem is that there is no problem. Okay? I don't know if you all can really hear that. And if that doesn't seem to make sense, don't worry about it. If it doesn't resonate for you now, maybe next week or next year. The solution to every problem, like this, that affect of, oh, it's problematic. That's just a thing we do. It's another one. It's another one of those tapes. We can just relax out of those tapes, relax out of the tension, see what's the best way to deal, and do that. Okay, is that helpful? Good.
Yes, thank you.
And then a number of the things that are in that video are things you can practice on your own that help you recognize that. And some of them you can use, for instance, my favorite mantra, ah. Now when the guy comes and says, Jose, I want to talk, but if you've practiced that enough out loud, then you can do it internally.
Mm.
You can just mentally go, and you'll see it because you're attuned to that. That triggers the relaxation. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm going to mute you again. And lower your hand. And Avi, your hand is up again. Avi?
Hi. I didn't think I did.
Oh.
But since I got the chance, I might ask something. Maybe this is for the next session. I want to be sensitive to the time since a lot of people are here. Would you mind talking about consciousness and being self-aware to the point of worrying about how we are perceived by others?
Right.
Constantly trying to fit and overperform to an image or perfection, if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not expecting an answer right now, but
No, this is great. This is great. It's good because we're 5 minutes from finishing, so you're going to force me to be concise.
Okay.
That'll be refreshing. So hang on just 1 second. I'm told I have to do something else. Okay. Good. Yes. So in particular, because, in meditation, we talk about consciousness and developing consciousness, becoming more aware of awareness. And for someone who's thinking in the terms that you are, which is, oh, but I'm so self-conscious, right? Then that's even can sound like a contradiction. Like, gee, maybe that's not what I want. I don't want to, I'm too conscious already of myself. The thing is, I think that term self-consciousness is a misnomer. It's a very misleading term. The problem is not really that you're too conscious of yourself, that you're hyper aware of yourself. The problem is a bunch of thoughts, particular thoughts that say, gee, am I going to measure up? I don't feel like I'm going to be adequate here. Are those other people looking at me? Am I going to, and associated with those thoughts, certain feelings. You know, when you feel inadequate, when you feel that, oh, I'm gonna be on stage and forget my lines, this kind of thing. The feelings they're palpable, they're visceral. Often people mix up. They say, okay, I'm going to talk about my feelings, and really they're talking about their thoughts. But although they may be associated, but I'm going to be just for a moment clear about this. If you're walking down the sidewalk, someone jumps out of the alley, says, boo, and there's that startled feeling. Okay, that's a feeling. We know what that feeling feels like. Now, a moment later, you realize, oh, gee, that was Dean jumped out of the alley. Yeah, God, what a jerk, right? So we say, oh, I have this certain feeling about Dean, but that's the thought of Dean is such a jerk, and it's connected with that feeling of being startled. So just to be clear, so we're clear about what is actually presenting here. What's presenting is a bunch of thoughts about, oh, am I going to be adequate here? Am I going to measure up? And a bunch of feelings connected with them. And it's really good to notice that feelings are feelings. Feelings are, we can say, just feelings. Thoughts are thoughts. We can say, just thoughts. A lot of this just happens in meditation. That because we treat all thoughts as equivalent, whether it's a noble thought, oh, here's the meaning of life, and here's how I should be altruistic to others, blah, 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 or a completely misguided thought, 2 + 2 is 5. Why didn't I see that before? Whatever. Or a completely, just business-like thought, okay, I got to remember to pay my electric bill. We treat them all as equivalent. They're just these impulses. They're blips going across the screen of awareness. And we do the same with feelings. So a feeling of, in meditation, a feeling of dejectedness, or a feeling of exhilaration. Whatever the feelings are, they're just different blips going across the screen of awareness. We treat all blips as equivalent. So it doesn't matter how you feel. I love saying that because there's so few times in life that anyone will ever say to us, it doesn't matter how you feel. People usually think that's what matters most. We organize our whole life to try to, be going to Disneyland where it's the happiest place on earth, where I'll have these happy feelings, and I'm not going to the garbage dump where I'll have these garbagey feelings or whatever. To be in a situation where feelings are just feelings, they're just equivalent blips back and forth, and thoughts are just thoughts, equivalent blips back and forth. And in the midst of that, we are resting in our own essential nature, which is the silent awareness, which is not lacking anything. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't lack anything. It's the it's the infinite. Here's a phrase I did not get from Maharishi. This is one I invented. It's my favorite original phrase: infinite okayness. We're always looking for okayness. That's the pot of gold at the, that we imagine is at the end of the road. We're always looking for okayness. The reason that we feel nervous about these kinds of professional interactions or personal interactions is we feel, I'm going to not be adequate. I'm not okay. I'm going to be seen as not okay. Now, when we sit down, and this is why it's, the basic, most important thing is set up a time every day, like brushing your teeth, where you just sit down and meditate without thinking about it, where just some time that's in your schedule. You always get time to brush your teeth. You always get 15 minutes or so to brush your consciousness. Okay, and we just sit down every day, and more we're marinating in that infinite okayness, which is not touched by any of the thoughts and feelings that go back and forth. And that's why, as I was saying before, it's important to have thoughts in meditation so we can experience how the thoughts don't damage, they don't violate the perfect, the flawless, perfection of the infinite okayness. And we can have the feelings, and even feelings of dejection and feelings of anxiety and all that. It's, you know, it's fun for a guy who just made a videotape about cutting through anxiety. I'm telling you now, in meditation, if anxiety arises, great. Because then we get to experience that even in the face of anxiety, that infinite okayness, which is not something we achieve, not something we learn or attain, it's what we are. And we get to experience that more and more clearly, and more the awareness of that awareness, the awareness of our essentially infinitely okay beingness, more and more percolates day to day. Percolates into the other 24 hours of the day. And that's true self-confidence. Something Maharishi did say, you can't have self-confidence without knowing the self. You can't have self-confidence without self-knowledge. And we're not talking about little s self, what people think the self is, which is, you know, oh, this attitude and this history and this blah, blah, and this pattern, but this capital S self. The beingness, what we truly are, the awareness that's aware of all this other stuff we thought we were. Avi, is that helpful?
Yeah, I think I like some of the points that you made. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for 2 out of 2 beautiful questions. I hope to see you again on some more of these sessions.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, everybody, boys and girls, it's dinner time on the West Coast, and sometime on wherever you are. So, thank you all so much. We'll be doing this again next Tuesday, next Thursday, as always for now. For the duration, I'll be sending out an alert on Tuesday morning early. And anything else? Yafa, is there something I'm forgetting to say? Okay, cool. So, may all beings swiftly notice the overlooked infinite okayness that was their true nature all along. May every driver on the highway of life notice the pavement of gold underneath that's been under his or her wheels all along. And thus may peace spontaneously prevail everywhere in this world and all possible worlds. And the Sanskrit traditional language for that aspiration. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Everybody.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Hi, Marie.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Namaste.
Marie, so good to see you. You didn't get to say hi.
I have been loving these lessons, Dean, and in between reading your books, and this has been wonderful for me.
Oh, That's great.
Truly wonderful. This was a truly wonderful getting together.
Oh yeah.
Nice to see you.
Really lovely to see you. How do you say good night in Czech?
Dobronoc.
Dobrona.
Dobronoc.
Dobrona.
Okay.
Dobrona.
Dobrona. Y'all.
Dobrona.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.